topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask Good Questions podcast, broadcasting live every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY Radio at W4CY.com. This week and every week, we will reach for a higher purpose in money and life, as well as a focus on health and wellness. Now, let's join your host, Benita Bell Anderson, as together we start with Asking Good Questions.
Hello and welcome to the Ask Good Questions podcast. I am your host, Benita Bell Anderson, and I'm so happy that you are here today with us today. We are going to have a wonderful conversation today about, I believe everyone should be listening to this because this is going to apply to everyone who has a body. And so with that, I'd like to invite my guest to the podcast stage. Her name is Jana Jamail. Is it Jamail?
Jamail.
Jamail. And Jana, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So let me tell you a little bit about this girl. She's a certified nutrition specialist with a clinical focus on functional nutrition, applied neuroscience, and the gut-brain connection. We have got some really amazing things to talk about today. Her work centers on complex chronic health concerns, including neuroinflammation, digestive dysfunction, environmental exposures, and immune-related conditions where nutrition can play an important adjunct role alongside conventional care. So she brings research and clinical perspectives to the table, and including she's done some work on, get this, transcranial photobiomodulation. Now, I would not have known before that was red light therapy because I have done some red light therapy, and so I'm really interested to hear what she has to say about that. And there's some potentials there for mental health support, which is interesting. Her approach emphasizes practical, evidence-informed strategies that consider the nervous system, detoxification pathways, gut health, and just a lot of different things. She's also a parent of a ADHD child. I don't know, Jen, if I'd ever heard of that. I've heard of the other like autism stuff, but that was interesting to So You've got in-home practice with all of this stuff as well. So she provides clinical professional consultations designed to help listeners and to help people better understand potential root contributors, which I think is what I really always am looking at to find is what's the root cause. So with that, I'd like to just say, is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
If that's really hard to remember for the audience, I'm a neuronutritionist. You can just walk away with that knowledge.
And before I met Jan, I didn't even know there was such a thing, but I think that is like so important. So in our title, we talked about hidden health gremlins. And I think of the movie Gremlins and these little guys, running around just causing mischief all over the place. That's kind of how I feel about that in our body. So what do you see that could be categorized as a gremlin in our body that sabotages our health without you even realizing it?
Okay, so you know how in the Gremlin movie, they say don't feed the gremlins after midnight and don't get the gremlins wet? Okay, so I feel like there's kind of that applicability to our life as well, where it's like, don't eat all the processed foods, don't eat a ton of sugar. So I feel like that's kind of the correlation there with the same thing with the Gremlins. And the reason that is it's not necessarily the body can't handle those things. It's what is the body having to go through and do in order to process those things? And is it diminishing other areas of your health? So if it's focusing on processing all of like the chemicals in processed foods, what's going on with your immune system on the other side? And what do those chemicals do in the body? So it's kind of like a twofold effect where you eat the processed food, you get the gremlin wet, then they turn crazy. Now we turned on the immune system.
So we're going to talk a lot about chronic stress and weight loss. And that's something that I've personally been interested in. And so what's the biggest misconception around, the whole thing around stress and people feeling stuck when it comes to weight loss?
So I think the first thing with chronic stress is people don't really understand how much they're stressed. I think it's kind of like a frog in a pot where the stress builds and you get to a place where you're so overly stressed, you don't even notice how stressed out you are. Yeah. And it can take kind of like a huge difference in your entire mental health to be like, oh, there's something going on here. Maybe I need to make some changes in my life. And it can take a long time to get out of stress. But what a lot of people don't understand is when you're in chronic stress, you have a spike in a hormone called cortisol. Most people have heard of cortisol. Cortisol is great actually for you. When it's low, it helps you fall asleep. When it gets higher, it helps you wake up. When it gets really high, it puts you into fight or flight. It helps with adrenaline so that you're focused, you can protect yourself. When you're in chronic stress, you're constantly spiking that adrenaline and fight or flight. And what people don't know is that actually triggers neuroinflammation, because when you have too much cortisol in the brain, you're actually creating an inflammatory environment for your brain cells. And so that can lead to more depression, that can lead to more anxiety, that can lead to changes in gut health, and it can also weaken your immune system. And so a lot of people get to a place where they're watching the news, they're doom scrolling social media, they're just ingesting too much visually that is stressing them out, and their nervous system is going haywire because we're not really designed to be that connected and seeing that much action and all of that. Our cortisol is supposed to be really sensitive for really scary moments, and we can expose ourselves to a lot of scary moments without completing the anxiety loop of I'm okay, I'm safe, all of that can come down. So it has a multitude of effects, but it definitely affects your gut, your brain, and your immune system.
So you're basically saying that we can be running on stress hormones and not even know it.
Oh, absolutely. And most people do. Think about it this way. So if you're gaining weight all the time and you have no idea that you're stressed, it's going to change your blood sugar regulation. It changes your hunger hormones. It changes that you're going to seek out certain types of food to calm yourself. Typically, people who are chronically stressed are reaching for something in high fat or high sugar. They don't even know they're doing that. They just think, I really like the taste of this. Actually, you're self-soothing your nervous system and you don't even know it. Wow. And then at the same time, you're causing more inflammation. So once we have that inflammatory like blood sugar spiking happening from that cortisol being out of balance, that's when all that weight gain happens. And then it stays that way because the body thinks, I got to hold on to this. I'm going to be in a really terrible situation soon because I wake up every day and I'm in this terrible situation. So it's really hard to lose that weight. And so some people will come to me as a nutritionist and say, I want to lose weight, but if you don't address your mental health, there's really not a whole lot I can do to down-regulate your nervous system unless it's, are you eating enough? Are you eating regularly? If you're putting yourself in chronic stress, we're going to continue that cycle. But a lot of people do undereat in this situation as well. And when you're undereating, you're underfueling, you have too high cortisol. Typically, these people are over-caffeinating themselves. And they're like, I'm just going to drink coffee and that's how I'm going to get energy all day. It creates this cycle that people are stuck in.
Well, walk us through what chronic stress does to metabolism.
Yes.
You know, what changes first in the body?
Oh, that's kind of a chicken and egg question because it's, were you born into chronic stress? Or did chronic stress enter your life later? Early childhood trauma has a huge impact on your metabolism. typically people who have early childhood trauma lean heavier in their weight or even obese. People who have trauma later, they may start gaining weight as a defense mechanism, especially women who have been assaulted. So it can be one or the other. It's not always the same thing. It depends on the individual. But what can happen, so when you have a lot of cortisol, it's going to spike your blood sugar all day. You don't want your blood sugar to spike. You want a slow rolling wave. So that's why you hear nutritionists say you want enough protein, you want complex carbohydrates, because what we're doing is we're blunting that blood sugar. If it's constantly up and down all day, what happens is you're releasing insulin all day. Well, your body isn't going to be as sensitive to that insulin over time. And so you're going to need more of it and more of it. And so what we call it in our world is insulin resistance. And so then you're going to see weight gain, you're going to see higher cholesterol. Also in nutrition world, when we see higher cholesterol, we're wondering, is the body protecting itself from something? Because it doesn't happen in a vacuum. And then you're going to see high glucose, and you're going to also see that chronic stress. So it becomes this cycle that people get stuck in and the body gets stuck in. But it can happen from exposure in utero to stress, early childhood trauma during the lifetime. Typically you're kind of, there's a trigger sometimes, and sometimes it's not in your control.
Right. Well, let's say you've got two people that are eating the same, they feel, like they're exercising the same, but the chronically stressed person is complaining about, I can't lose any weight. So that's because they're in this loop, right?
It can be genetics plays a role as well, because you can have a chronically stressed person that is more anorexic, right? And then they're not getting any nutrients, so they're not going to put on any weight. So typically it's not like I'm seeing two healthy people and it's just chronic stress that's contributing to this. There's layers to it. There's learned behaviors to cope. Typically one of those people is binge eating in the evening because they've come down after a huge day and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm starving. And then they start comfort eating and that soothes them. So we're seeing that in that person. Also, you mentioned they're exercising the same. If this person's a woman or a man and their hormones are off, say they're chronically stressed and they have low testosterone, low estrogen, well, that exercise actually might contribute to their chronic stress and could actually increase their cortisol. So there's a lot of layers to looking at an individual. It's really hard to be like, we have twins, they're side by side. They live the exact same life. Because what we've actually seen in research is people have done that. They've been through the exact same thing and their body is different. And it's just what genes turn on, because stress turns on different genes. It turns off different genes. So everyone's a little bit different with it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about sleep, right?
I love sleep.
And I do too. I love sleep too. But sometimes I have a hard time going to sleep because my brain is just like, it just won't stop. And it seems like there can be a sleep and blood sugar. There's a stress weight cycle that can happen. Well, what would you address first?
So typically that doesn't happen in a vacuum. So are you stressed? Do you have allergies? Do you have nasal congestion? After you eat dinner, do you get really itchy? Because there's a multitude of things. So if you're really stressed out, what you're talking about is called evening rumination, where you cannot turn your brain off. You cannot calm down. Typically for that, we recommend box breathing for people because it starts down regulating your nervous system. You can also wake up and have that panic in the middle of the night. We also recommend box breathing. And then at that point, we recommend maybe you want to talk to a therapist because something might be going on. But if we're in the other category of constant nasal congestion, itchiness after meals, well, then I'm looking at a histamine response. And then I'm going, you're going to have a hard time falling asleep because your histamine is going to get up higher and higher as you're falling asleep because that's when it rises. And then you're always going to wake up between 1 and 3 in the morning because that's when histamine spikes. So then I'm looking at, do we need a nasal spray? What allergies are you exposed to? Do we need to do a food allergen test? Are you allergic to something that you know about? So then we get into like deeper environmental things to see if something else is going on.
Wow. So it seems like seems like there's, I think you would basically take one thing at a time and eliminate it to figure out what's going on with you.
Absolutely. As you can see, I'm like, well, it kind of depends on the individual, because there's really no blanket statement for everyone. And that's something we kind of focus on in nutrition and neuroscience, is what's going on individually with you. Because some people, they really do have that high anxiety. Some people have ADHD. They have a really hard time going to sleep at night. So then we're looking more at like, okay, mentally, how do we calm that nervous system? And then some people are like, I had COVID-19 and I have had nasal congestion for years. So now we're looking at, we got to clear out your nose, because that is actually a place where the immune system repopulates histamine. So then we have to address that. So it's looking at everybody individually.
Let's talk a little bit about menopause and women that, it seems like sometimes the combination of things that are going on when people go through menopause is just not fair.
Yes. And the rage they feel, it's justified. Yes, they should. When you wake up in the morning and you want to just murder everyone. Yes, you should feel like that.
So what would you tell somebody that's just, that says, oh, I'm going, well, that they're going through menopause?
So menopause can show up in such different ways. It can be the hot flashes, which that is such a kind word for what it is. It is, you're sleeping in a pool of sweat. You are miserable. You want to live in an ice cube. There's no other way. So a flash is adorable. I think anyone who's gone through this knows this is not a flash. This is overwhelming your whole system. So there's that. And then it is disruptive to your sleep. All of those hormones are changing. There's a histamine element with that as well, where now all of a sudden you have migraines too. There's a whole change in histamine that's leading to migraines in this population. And then there's also, you're constantly fluctuating hormones all day long, where it's estrogen might be really high. Oh, now that's crashed the next day. Now progesterone's really high. Oh, and now we've crashed that. And now testosterone. So it's constantly fluctuating. So if someone's going through this, number one, I would say all of your symptoms are real. Believe them. Don't ever let anyone gaslight you and tell you it's not happening. Number two, the rage will pass. You will not want to murder everyone at all times. That is also real though. Like if you're looking at your partner and you're like, I cannot stand how you eat, that will go away. This will not be forever. And then for some women who are afraid of HRT because they've seen old research, if you are struggling, I would highly recommend talk to your doctor about bioidentical HRT. It's different. It's not synthetic. It's more like a cream. So the body is processing it differently, but it can be really protective for the heart. It's anti-cancer for some women. It's really protective for the brain, especially depression. And it can be up to 20 years of protection. So I would say don't be afraid of bioidentical HRT, and definitely talk to your doctor about it. If you have that daily rage, maybe talk to your doctor about it.
Well, I was very intrigued by the whole neuro-nutrition and neuro-inflammation idea. What does the gut-brain connection actually mean for somebody that's dealing with anxiety and cravings and brain fog? Maybe they're not very motivated, so talk to us about that gut-brain connection.
Yeah. So in nutrition and neuroscience, we consider the gut the second brain. So there is a connection between the gut and the brain called the vagus nerve, and they talk all day long. Like surgeons have actually cut the vagus nerve in some people, and these people are out of their minds afterwards because there is so much talk going on between the two. So in the gut, so you have your own immune system in the gut and the brain. They have different cells and those talk to each other. Your gut also creates neurotransmitters. So hormones you've heard of, dopamine, serotonin, the gut also creates those as well as the brain. And then for those who don't know, we have tons of bacteria in our gut. They're fantastic. We love them. You have about 3 pounds of bacteria that live in your gut. They do tons of different things. They affect your metabolism. They affect your mental health. Well, now we're looking at, there's probably actually bacteria living in the brain as well. So instead of a gut microbiome, now we have a brain microbiome, and they're talking to each other. So sometimes with anxiety, it can be you do have anxiety and you're worried about something and now your stomach is hurting. Or you have a gut infection and you don't feel well and it's creating anxiety. And you're like, I'm sitting on the couch, nothing is happening. My stomach is killing me and I have so much anxiety. Same thing can happen with brain fog. Typically, there's something going on in the gut when you're having brain fog. Hormones can definitely play a role as well, but normally that's what we're seeing. The other thing that's interesting is for neuroinflammation. So if anyone isn't familiar with this, neuroinflammation is when your immune system in your brain is overactivated. And so all of these cells are turned on. They're trying to fight an infection in your brain. So in some ways, we think of like the brain kind of being on fire. A lot of disorders, so depression, that is a neuroinflammatory disorder. Autism, ADHD, schizophrenia, all neuroinflammatory. So a lot of that also has to do with there's a difference in the gut bacteria going on in those disorders as well. So typically if someone comes to me and they have depression and they're like, it just won't go away, I am so miserable. I'm like, are you eating enough? What's going on in your gut? We start there. And then typically the first thing that lifts is the brain fog. And they're like, oh, wow, I haven't been able to focus in the afternoon in a year or so. And then we just kind of keep going and see, is there a mineral deficiency? Is there a vitamin D deficiency? What are we looking at? And then slowly their mental health can improve. A lot of psychiatrists and psychologists are now starting with nutrition with patients who are coming in with depression and anxiety to see, is there something going on in the gut first?
Wow. Well, how does neuroinflammation show up in real life then? What are the, I can see people dismissing symptoms just because they're not really aware, but how can it show up for people?
So it's on a spectrum. So on the low end, it's going to be irritability, mood swings, anxiety, depression that keeps coming back. You get into the more advanced issues, then you're looking at blind rage with blacking out. You're looking at violence. You're looking at obsessive compulsive disorder. A lot of people think obsessive compulsive disorder is, I have to wash my hands 20 times a day. Typically, obsessive compulsive disorder is an internal thing. So they have this really intrusive thought that's really scary. So it's, I'm going to hurt someone with a knife. So they believe that so deeply, they will never touch a knife again. They won't even go near it in a kitchen. That's typically what you start seeing. You start seeing an overreaction to things, and then the tics show up. So itching, scratching, weird coughing going on. So it can get to a much higher degree. And then you can also get into like mobility and balance issues as well. So neuroinflammation can progress typically when it's in that bucket of more advanced and extreme. The immune system is now in a malfunction and you're in an autoimmune situation where the immune system's now attacking your brain, and that's creating the inflammation.
You make me think of the really bad Gremlin. Remember the guy that was like really terrible? He was like 20 times worse. Yeah. Oh my. So, well, you work with complex chronic cases, right?
I do, yes.
So do you see things that people overlook?
Oh my gosh, all the time. People ignore their gut health the most. They think constipation is just a way of life. It's just what it is. They've always had this. No, that's not normal. People have diarrhea all the time and they think, that's just fine. I'm just getting older. I'm just sensitive to foods. No, this is also not normal. Some people don't know they're not detoxing well. They just think, I've just always had bad skin, or I just have a really hard time drinking alcohol and I just don't feel good the next day. It's things that people just get used to. And when they come to me, most of the time people come to me and they're like, oh, I think I just want to lose 10 pounds. But I also have all these other things. And we go through a laundry list and I'm like, yeah, this has nothing to do with your weight. We've got some systems we've got to fix over here that we're just not addressing.
Because the weight's not going to release until after you fix the systems.
No, absolutely not. I mean, if you're constipated, you are not going to be able to lose weight. Your metabolism, you are circulating toxins. I mean, there's a host of things happening in your body that you just think, I'll just take some Metamucil and I'll be fine, right? And why is this happening is a question I normally like to ask and then help answer and solve.
Well, I have, I'm just like true confessions here. Over the course of my adult life, I've done these like weight loss challenges. Nothing ever changes. Why do you think that, these, you see these things online and come and do our challenge? Well, a lot of times it feels like nutrition plans, they just, nothing ever changes, right? And that's probably because of what you're talking about. There's some root causes that are not being addressed.
That, and I think there is this common misconception that everyone's going to look the same. Everyone has this expectation that we're all going to be size 2, size 0, size 4. We're all going to live in that world. We're all like, we could all eat the exact same food every day and we would all look completely different. None of us would be the same size.
Yeah.
So I think there's also that. And then a lot of those different weight and like nutrition plans in there, you're eating like 1,200 calories a day, which to someone listening, that's probably no big deal. That is what a toddler eats a day.
Yeah.
We're full grown humans. Like we are creating hormones on a different level. We are doing completely different things. And so we're needing more food than that, more calories than that. And so when you go to those really low levels and then you start eating again, well, typically you gain back 2 times what you just lost.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a balance of what are you eating to help keep your hunger levels lower and more normal for you? And then what's your activity level? What's your stress level? What is all of those things? And a lot of those things aren't addressed when you're doing like a weight loss plan for like Weight Watchers or something like that.
Right. Well, do you have some favorite fast ways to downshift the nervous system? I mean, when I'm sitting here kind of laughing to myself because it seems like none of those things out there that are like, do this and you're going to lose weight. The latest thing that I'm seeing is those patches that are berberine. And
don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Well,
they're
terribly, the ads are like, you go from like this to this. And it's like, that's just not normal.
No. Berberine is an antimicrobial just for people out there. So it's literally like taking a very high level antibiotic at all times. So you will destroy your gut lining if you do berberine around the clock. People don't know that. Botanicals are very powerful supplements. So if you see something like that, I would just ask first someone who knows what they're doing.
Probably a related question is you go out and research something and then all of a sudden it seems that's all you see on your phone is because then you start getting served up all these things, which are very hard. So I was like, that's a little bit of an aside. Fast ways. Is there a fast way to downshift the nervous system?
There are. So with food, you actually want to make sure you're eating regularly. This is going to balance your cortisol. So eating within an hour that you're waking up, you want to have complex carbohydrates and protein. You don't want to overeat fat. That can be really hard on the nervous system. You just want to eat regularly throughout the day. Skipping meals is really stressful for the body. Getting enough fiber. A lot of people do not get enough fiber. You need about 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day, which can feel like a lot. So adding in beans to your meal, making sure you're getting enough fruits and vegetables, getting the like brown rice, quinoa, whole grain pasta, whole sprouted wheat bread. Those are really great ways to get enough fiber.
Right.
Protein is definitely important, but some people are eating too much protein right now. So getting enough protein for your actual activity level is really important. Those are nutritionally easy ways. Neuroscience now. This is my favorite way to downregulate the nervous system. So you cannot be in anxiety if you are being creative. So my favorite thing to do with clients when they come on with me, and I can tell they've been on a hamster wheel all day, they are just exhausted. I'm like, okay, we're just going to take 10 seconds. I want you to imagine your favorite place you've ever been. Just like hold it in your head. What does it smell like? Is it the beach? Does it smell like salt? okay, what does it feel like? Is there a wind? Is the breeze, is it like warm? Is it cold? What does the sand feel like? Is that cold or is it warm still? Is that warmth hitting your back? And like, if you put your hands down, what are you feeling? Does it feel grainy? Does it feel warm? And then typically by the time we're done with this whole exercise, their nervous system has calmed down because you cannot create ambient anxiety.
Oh, super
And
cool.
you can do this anytime. One of my favorite things, one client loved to bake. And I was like, what is the most beautiful cake we could possibly bake? And we went through an entire process of like, what would it look like? What would it smell like?
She's imagining it.
Yeah.
It's visualization.
Absolutely. And then for people who are like, okay, but I'm chronically in this and I can't just daydream all day, getting into art projects, going for walks, listening to a favorite podcast, maybe this one, but putting your phone down.
Yeah.
Getting off your phone. So I've had a couple clients recently start knitting and crocheting. It's literally like meditating and you're creating something you love.
Right.
So getting into, and if you're sitting here listening, like, I don't know what I like. What did you like to do when you were a kid? Did you like dinosaurs? Did you like space? Did you like to color? What did you like to do? And then I tell people pick one of those things. So for a client who needs to downregulate, there's a couple rules I give them. Number one is you have to have a cutoff. No matter what, work ends at 7, work ends at 8. I don't care what it is. We are all done for the day. Your body has to know when it's going to end. That's a big indicator for the nervous system. The second thing is you have to do whatever you love after that cutoff. So going for a walk, playing with your dog, starting a craft, cooking dinner. I don't care what, listening to music. I don't care what it is, but it's for you. And you have to do only for you until bedtime. And then I always tell people, take a shower before you go to bed. It's going to drop down your temperature, which will help tell your body it's time to sleep. And then off to bed you go. Some people have a hard time still down regulating. And I say, like, do you like ocean sounds? Do you like rain? Putting on a sound machine to help start bringing down your nervous system, that will also help. So those are like my little neuroscience tricks that I help for people.
Well, you talked a little bit about like phones. I think digital overstimulation is a little bit of a problem. You think?
I wish everybody could have the old school blue Nokia brick phone again. Like, yeah, go ahead, play Snake and Tetris, and that's all you can do. And then we're all done here.
Yeah. My daughter, who's in her mid 40s, she was telling me that she was talking to some kids at church, and they were doing one of those guessing games, and it was like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. None of them knew who Mr. Rogers was. And she called me and she said, "Mama, I feel so old."
Do they know who Daniel Tiger is? Because that's like modern day Mr. Rogers.
I know. It's like, oh my gosh. But digital, the doom scrolling is like, oh my. So I think that a lot of the stress, the constant notifications, that's contributing, isn't it, to keeping us.
It's the notification. It's how colorful your phone is because it makes you want to look at it. Almost every app is colorful. If you put grayscale on your phone, you're not going to care about it anymore. It's not enticing to look at. Yeah, you could turn all of that off. The other thing, I have found the people who are most addicted to their phones are people 60 to 75. The amount of time I've seen people just sitting there in a coffee shop on their phone the whole time. And I see younger people reading, and I see this age group on their phone. And I'm like, what has happened to the world?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
They're fascinated by it.
Yeah.
So,
but yes, the doom scrolling, that's going to keep you in your anxiety spiral. And then you're telling your brain, I'm not safe constantly, because you can't, if you don't put the phone down and the news story never ends, well, then your anxiety spiral never ends. And then you go to sleep like that. But if you actually put it down and you're not connected to the news all day, you're not like the TV's off. That's another thing. We got to turn the TV off. We do not need to have the TV on all day. If that's all off, well, then your body can complete an anxiety spiral and go, oh, this is really scary, but we're going to be okay. And then you can go do something else.
Right. Well, I've been a financial advisor for a good part of my adult life. And more and more as I've gotten older, I've been like, health is the first wealth, and if you don't have your health, then you could be really successful financially, but if you don't have your health, it's like, you can't do anything. So you've said that heart disease and chronic illness can become a tax on retirements. I mean, what I'm kind of talking about is the whole idea of health being, it's part of your retirement plan. So what
Absolutely.
would you say about, heart disease and chronic stress and all that being a tax on retirement?
So if you're not thinking about health in a way, like a lot of people take health for granted, right? Because when you have it, you don't think about it. When you don't have it, it's all you think about all day long. And it's really hard to plan for that because you don't know what's going to happen, right?
No.
So, but what most people don't know is how expensive it is to be unwell. That dementia can cost up to $500,000.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, that's mostly your
working
family.
With clients. Oh,
right.
I know.
And your family's doing that. And then heart disease can be, almost $500,000. And so people are thinking, I'm saving this, I'm going to have a great retirement. And then bam, your health changes. And all of that investment is now going to your health and not the thing you wanted to go to. And a lot of people don't know that heart disease, dementia, a lot of these later illnesses, they actually start in your 40s. And so,
wow,
it's almost like you tell people to start planning for retirement early, right? You want them to start putting that money away. Well, I want you to start eating correctly early because I want to mitigate what could happen down the road. And I also want to make sure you're not passing that down to your kids either, right? That's also a huge stress on children when they're watching this happen to their parents. They don't know what's going to happen. That is a huge stress. So if you're burnt out, like you did I feel like there's this common idea that like, I'm just going to work so hard and I'm going to kill myself to work so hard and I'm going to make that money and I'm going to have it later. There's a tax. There's a health tax to that later that almost none of us get out of.
Right.
And so typically when we talk about finances and investment, I really want people to invest in their own health. Like go to the doctor regularly. Don't ignore your symptoms. They're not going to go away. They will start compounding later. Start really investing in that early, because if you do that early, you are going to have a better retirement later. You're gonna be able to play with your grandkids on the floor much longer, which some people don't value that yet. I promise you, you're going to value that later. Yeah. And just like the aches and pains that you would experience where you're like, my mind feels completely different than how my body feels. That is a little bit slower as well. And so it doesn't come as big of a shock, like the changes are slower and then you're not having to invest so much in extra healthcare that you didn't want to.
Right.
Sorry, you probably heard my dog's barking.
How do you help people reframe like supplements and doing testing and nutrition support as a long-term strategy, without them freaking out about overspending or chasing trends? I mean, I think it's hard not to do.
Okay. So I know we're kind of in this weird time period where we're not trusting doctors, researchers. We're not trusting all of our scientists. And I would say you can trust us, number one. Like we really, really want to help you. That's literally what we do. And we also know people are trying to do their own research. So what I tell clients is go ahead and do your research, but please understand if you don't know how to create research, if you don't know what parameters are in place, if you don't know how to run statistical analysis, if you don't know what patient population should be reviewed, if you don't know what correlation means or causation means or what limitations are, I need you to trust me.
So Dr. Google doesn't know everything?
Go to PubMed. But there's that. Because I see a lot of clients doing their own research and then they're on like 20 supplements. And I'm like, do you even know what you're taking?
Why are you doing this?
They have no idea. And so if you go somewhere and they want to give you tons of supplements, run. That is not what we're doing here. Yeah. 2, if you come, say, and people do know how to do research. I'm not saying they don't. if they come and they have research, I'm happy to look at what comes to me. And then I love to go, this is why I think this doesn't apply. This is something we should look into. If you have someone who is just 100% ignoring you or 100% believing everything, be cautious of that, because you want us to be critical. And so a lot of people will go, they see things on Instagram, they see influencers. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not an influencer. I'm a neuronutritionist. Like, you shouldn't listen to me on Instagram. That lowers my credibility.
Yeah.
So a lot of us are not in those spaces, and because we are credible, and like many of us are published, we've had to, what many people don't know is to get published in research, we have to go through a long list of our peers. And I can't tell you the amount of times people have told me I'm stupid for some of my ideas. As an adult, I have been told this, that this is what we have to go through, and we have to rethink things. And I know that my research might be wrong later, and then I'll have to rethink everything. So there's that piece. If anyone's doing their research and you don't trust scientists, please trust us. We are not trying to lead you astray.
Right.
Like, our whole goal in life is to help you. But supplements, following trends change all the time. The wellness industry, I think it's now $1 trillion industry. It is a huge industry.
It is a huge thing.
I mean, it's in some ways, it's as big as big pharma. So if you're worried about pharmaceuticals, you should be just as worried as at the wellness industry, because there's no oversight on supplements. I mean, you can buy anything on Amazon. We don't know what's in that.
Right.
So,
Well, so like the whole thing you were just talking about, berberine. That's the first time I've ever heard, I'm seeing all these stupid little things where these, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know about that particular ingredient. Woo.
Well, people think plants, like berberine is from a plant that's from Oregon. People think plant, it's healthy. Botanicals are just as potent as pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
So you want someone who knows what they're doing. Dosages really do matter. We really do research on this with people to ensure safety, because if you overdo it on berberine, oh my gosh, the gut pain you're going to be in and the misery you're going to be in.
Crazy.
But the supplement industry is just like the marketing industry. They want you to buy more. They never want you to get off it. So like pill caddies are getting to 20 supplements, and I'm like, what is in there? Do you even, and then they're never taken off anything. I mean, if you work with a nutritionist or even a doctor, a lot of the time we tell you, we want you on this much vitamin D for this long, and then we're going to reevaluate.
Right. And
we don't want you to live on these things.
So much more sense.
Yeah. So, and then with labs, it's kind of the same. There's blood labs I highly recommend. Yeah. But some people, like if you have gut issues, you might need a GI map. Not all gastroenterologists, not all of them like that. They don't think it's that valuable. It's really valuable for my job because I can see how you're actually utilizing your nutrients.
Right.
And so it can be different with each practitioner, but overall, we typically all value the same thing. We all value blood labs. We all value hormone labs. We really think those are beneficial. And so do not be afraid to get your blood work done. We highly recommend staying on top of it. It's one of the greatest ways to stay on top of your health.
Right. Well, this time always goes so fast. What would you say to kind of start wrapping this all up? What would you say would be a realistic 7-day reset look like for stress and metabolism? What would you tell someone if they were like, okay, she's convinced me, I'm gonna, start with something? What would you say would be realistic to start with?
So I like very simple things, because typically if you're in this place, you can't handle a huge overhaul. So I literally just say, change one thing on your plate.
Yeah.
Add blueberries to your plate, add dark leafy greens, add chia seeds if you want, but just add one new thing. Right. And then just do that for a week. And then the next week, if that worked out well for you, maybe add another new thing.
Right.
But a lot of people overhaul people just go all in and then they're burnt out. Like you have no energy to go all in. This is a slow build and change. So if you're like, I love having chips in the afternoon, maybe we swap that for some crackers and hummus or some carrots and hummus. If that sounds awful, maybe just add again a cup of blueberries or something like that. But just really simple changes.
Simple. maybe turn the phone off at.
Oh yeah, if you accidentally dropped your phone into a body of water, that might be the best thing that ever happens to you. Or just like, I do tell people, go on a news fast. We're like, do not pay attention to the news Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Maybe you can look at the headlines and then you don't get to look at it again because they're changing all week long anyway. And then you're just going on a roller coaster. So maybe pick one day. What I do with my husband, because I struggle, is I tell him, I'm not going to look at the news. Tell me if anything significant happens at the end of the week. And then I walk away.
And usually it's just been all week long anyway.
Yeah. And it's meant to do that, right? Because then you're addicted to it and you're stuck on it and your anxiety. So you're like, I have to know what happens next. What's going to happen next? And but if you look outside, everything's okay right now.
Yeah. Well, we have to wrap this up. So what I want to make sure that everyone knows is there's going to be a little information sheet about what you do, and that'll be on my website for people to be able to find you. Is there anything else on me? Oh, why don't you mention your website? Because it's a little bit, you would think it's not your name. What's your website?
Yes. So my company is called Rose and Ginger Nutrition. The and is a plus sign. But my website is roseginger.com. And if you're like, I might want to do this, I don't know. I have a blog and I write about tons of different things, different health topics, things that may or may not relate to you if you're curious. There's videos about how I've helped other people. There's case studies if you want to know. You can read my research on there if you want to know. So it has all the things.
Sounds awesome. Well, I think that we have asked some good questions today.
I think so.
I think that my goal is always to give some actionable, something that people can do as they leave the podcast. And so with that, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate everything you're doing because it's so important to the health and longevity of everyone that's listening. So with that, we're going to have to wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining the Ask Good Questions podcast, and we will see you next time.
Today's episode is over, but we did ask good questions again, didn't we? Don't miss out as we broadcast live every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY Radio at W4CY.com. Join Benita Bell Anderson next week for more conversations with experts on finances, retirement, behavioral finance issues, health and wellness, and more. Until then, remember to ask good questions.